Howdy, and welcome to Stagecoach, Texas, which is a real place. You are among the first people to watch my brand new Flosstube channel. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Flosstube or may have clicked on this accidentally, Flosstube is a group of channels that are dedicated mostly to cross-stitch and other counted thread embroidery. Some creators also show some of their works in crochet, knitting, quilting, other sewing, and mine will primarily be about cross-stitch. This episode is all cross-stitch, but perhaps in the future I will bring out some of my quilting or crochet or knitting or even a few other crafts, but we'll see how things go. I live outside of Houston, Texas, in a fairly rural area, as I said, Stagecoach, Texas, which is an actual town, although I live in the rural area surrounding Stagecoach. I am a professor of history and humanities, and I have been doing that for a hot minute. My primary fields are colonial America and ancient world history, and I truly am passionate about history, teaching history, and sharing the fun parts of history, the things that really get people excited, mostly the things about everyday history, which brings me to one of the main things I love about cross-stitch and the area of cross-stitch that interests me the most, which is reproduction samplers. I primarily stitch reproduction samplers, although as we'll see in a little bit, I do sometimes stitch other things. Usually still samplers. I'm not so much of a picture person. I love looking at those. I would love to stitch that kind of thing. I'm not good at it. It's not what I enjoy. However, if you've got a big, glorious mirabilia or lavender and lace piece you would like to send to me, I'll be happy to take it off your hands. It's just not what I'm good at stitching. So rather than spending any more time on me, let's talk about cross-stitch. Let's talk about some of the things I've stitched, some of the things that I enjoy, and maybe you'll see something you like too. First thing I want to show you is one of the pieces I finished about late last year, so about 6 months ago. And this is called the Red Bird Sampler. It's by Brenda Gervais of With Thy Needle and Thread. This particular one is stitched on 36 count prairie grass linen from Seraphim Fabrics. It's an over-dyed linen. And this one is stitched with an over-dyed silk conversion done by House Needleworks. So if you're interested in the colors I used, contact House Needleworks. They'll be happy to help you out. It only has, I think, 5 or 6 threads, so this is a great one to try silk for the first time. Some of them are over-dyed, some of them are solid color, but this really embodies what I love most. An antique sampler with, let's face it, these are outrageous colors. This red is brilliant, the turquoise is delicious, and that lime green is, well, it's lime green. So once again, the Red Bird Sampler by Brenda Gervais is one of my finishes. As you know, as you may see behind me, I finished some other things. I don't finish a lot. I have very poor discipline when it comes to finishing things, which is one of the things that made me want to start this channel. If you enjoy it, I want to ask you to help me buckle down and finish some things. I'm going to show you some pieces that are close to finished, that have no excuse for not being finished, and I want you to come back here in the comments and nag me. Say, hey, you need to finish that up. Come on, get that done. Here's a piece I've been focusing on with a surprising amount of discipline for me. It's another Brenda Gervais piece that looks better right side up than it does upside down. This is Mary Ann Copp, 1839. Also by Brenda Gervais, but it is a reproduction of an antique sampler that was originally stitched in 1839. I don't believe we know the age of the young lady, of Marianne. I haven't read the blurb inside the chart in a good long while, but this is what it looks like when it's finished. I apologize for the glare, but if you like Flosstube, you've seen a lot of glare. This is what she will look like when she's finished. I'm stitching mine on 36 count Chantilly cream by Lakeside Linens. Yes, I have a few pieces of Lakeside linen in my stash, and this sampler was beautiful enough to use one of those on. And I am stitching this with silk by Clayton, hand-dyed fibers. You can find her online. She does a line of solid and a line of variegated silks. I wanted the variegated. These are my colors. This conversion is available on the Hand Dyed Fibers website. I did change one color, the house, which Vicky had converted to, I believe, a color called kombucha. I changed mine. This is my house. Yeah, there it is. This is my house. And I changed mine to something a little duller, but with some little flecks of brown in it, called Yap Island. See the little bits of brown? And I love the way it's coming out. So, once again, Marianne Copp, Brenda Gervais, 36 count Chantilly cream with Clayton, hand-dyed fibers. I'm very close to a finish on that, y'all. All right, one that I am nowhere near finishing, but it's one I do want to focus on, particularly once Marianne is finished. This one, I think I'll show you the chart first. Well, I would if I knew where I had put that. Here it is. This is Charlotte Warrington, 1838, so a year before Marianne Copp. This piece is no longer available. I know, I'm so sorry, but it was originally available through a group called Homespun Needlework Cross Stitch and Samplers on Facebook, and this will not be available on the general market. Like a lot of exclusives come up about a year later, this one will not. However, if you really have to have it, sometimes people decide they don't want theirs. It was sold only in kit form. And if they get permission from the group owner, Julie Kursave, to sell their kit, it can only be resold through the same group it was offered through. So if you're interested in this, or if you're just interested in maybe some other exclusive samplers by well-known designers, join the group. It's worth it. It's worth being on Facebook just for the cross-stitching, trust me. Now, she takes, let me scoot back here. Charlotte takes an entire fat quarter of linen. The kit was, in the U.S., kitted with Mason linen, button box medium, I believe. I wanted to stitch mine with variegated silks, and that was not one of the options offered in the kit, so I did convert mine to Clayton hand-dyed fibers, and this is what I've gotten done so far. Notice these colors. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make y'all nauseous by moving quickly, but look at these colors. They're incredible. So that's my Charlotte Warrington. They are doing a stitch along through the group. If you've got this one and don't know about the stitch along somehow, Olive Green is leading the stitch along and has published in the files section the monthly installments. I have no discipline. I thought assignment stitching was going to work well in keeping me on track, but it did not. Oh well. These are the flosses, the silk flosses for mine. Give you an idea of the colors of the entire sampler and let you know how much stitching there is. This is 6 strand, all the same color green. It's about 300 miles of green silk thread. So those are the two I'm focusing on, or really want to focus on, over the next few months. Now I'm going to show you some samplers that have been started at various times and that should be finished. This one, I have very little excuse for it not being finished. This is Ann Walton by the Scarlet Letter. Now, here's why it's not finished. Do you see this? Over 1. The entire dedication and Ann's name and the date are stitched over 1. I can stitch over 1. I can stitch over 1 quite nicely. I don't enjoy it. It makes me cranky. So she's been sitting in a drawer unfinished for 2 years. Anne comes in a chart. I can't find my picture right now, but she comes in a chart with 2 samplers by the same girl, by Ann Walton, finished in April and I believe July of 1838 or 39. One has, we're pretty sure this is a little boy. He's got little pants under his dress and he's holding a stick and a hoop, traditional toys of young boys in the 1830s. The other sampler has a little girl with a rose or a flower. I've done some research, some historical research on these samplers. There's not a lot known about the samplers themselves, but they're obviously reflections of the fashions and clothes of the mid-19th century. You'll see a lot of this kind of poofy dress in red, sometimes in blue, sometimes there's 1 child, sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's more than 1 sampler with 2 different children. We think they're little boys and little girls. I plan to do a more history-focused video about those samplers at some point. Oh, this one is stitched on 36 count cream Edinburgh, or Edinburgh. I don't speak anything but English, barely, with soie d'Alger silk. For the first batch of people who ordered Ann Walton's sampler, the Scarlet Letter provided a chart with 2 other of these little girl samplers, and this was one of them. I think the other letter is a D. I'm not quite finished with this either. Scarlet Letter called this one Checkers, for obvious reasons, I think. I love the 2 little angels. She also needs to be finished. The only excuse is these little red flowers. I have no discipline. She should have been finished ages ago. Again, 36 count cream linen with soie d'Alger silk. The next one. If you're wondering about Checkers or the other little girl sampler, contact the Scarlet Letter. I don't know if she's still offering those 2 charts free with the purchase of Ann Walton, but it never hurts to ask. This is another sampler that I really should be finished with. This one is out of print. It's an older piece, but you can find it on the secondary market, reasonably priced. This is MAL, the 3 letters, 1914. It's a later sampler. It's all done in red. The original is in red. And what fascinates me about this sampler, well, I had to stitch it besides red, is this is what's called a Hutterite sampler. The Hutterites were a religious group. They are considered one of the peace religions. They believe in nonviolence, pacifism. They do not fight in wars, that sort of thing. Much like the Quakers, the Mennonite, the Shaker, the Amish, those groups you've probably heard more about. The Hutterites immigrated to Canada which is where this particular sampler was stitched. This one is by Giselle's Needlework. Do a search for MAL 1914 if you really want this one, or if you want what little information I do have about the publisher, just drop me a message and here in YouTube, and I will be happy to look that up for you. Now, if you're familiar with antique samplers, you may have thought, oh, wait, isn't that a Bristol sampler? Well, no, it's not. The Bristol Orphanage did feature a lot of these multi-alphabet, multi-motif samplers, usually in red, although they did sometimes do them in other colors. I am by no means an expert on Bristol samplers or the Bristol Orphanages. For that, I would recommend you look for a lady by the name of Claudia Dutcher, D-U-T-C-H-E-R. She is an actual expert. Also, the Attic Needlework in Mesa, Arizona, hosts every summer, I believe, a Bristol sampler weekend. I've never been. I have not been that fortunate, but if you are fascinated by those, by all means look into that weekend. But I do have a Bristol sampler, another one that should be finished. This one, the original was in blue and yellow. And this one I'm doing in blue and yellow. This is one that was offered as a freebie one Christmas many years ago by Sabine Taterra of European Reproduction Samplers. This one I am stitching with hand-dyed fibers, silk. I don't always stitch in hand-dyed fibers, but quite a bit. The two colors, this yellow and this blue, are begilted and besmurfed. I don't know if you can still get this chart from Sabine, but look up European Reproduction Fibers online and drop her an email. She speaks excellent English and will let you know. I forgot to mention what color and everything I'm using on this one. This one is 40 count Graziano linen. That's a linen that's no longer made. I am stitching it with one strand of, again, hand-dyed fiber silk in the color Gandy Dancer 1113. Yes, 1113. On the 40 count Graziano, and my little freebie Bristol sampler is also being stitched on 40 count Graziano. Okay, those are the ones that are super close to being finished that I need to finish soon. I have a couple of others that are not as close to being finished, but that I really, really, really want on my wall. And you've probably seen these elsewhere. This one, G Légère by Reflets de Soie. I have my chart somewhere, perhaps. This is the chart. G Légère by Reflets de Soie. It is charted for either soie d'Alger or overdyed silks. I'm doing mine in overdyed silks. They're a mixture of Gloriana and I did pull some other overdyed silks from my collection because some, as you can see, some of the colors really ghost away. You can probably see on the B, it's almost invisible. So I switched some of those out to something darker but still the same color. Now do not laugh at my rat's nests of silk, but here they are. Ah! Beautiful colors. This is not all of these go into this sampler, but I'm still pulling darker colors, and I haven't gotten much done on the bottom of this one. And that one I'm thinking I may have to pull some more colors, but I absolutely love this one. It's so much fun to stitch. Let's see if where's the pear? There's the pear, you can barely see it. But these big letters are just gorgeous. I'm stitching this on 32 count Vintage Country Mocha. I stitch mostly on 36 count now, but for a while I was having, I'm legally blind, and for a while I could not stitch on 36 count. Now I can. I have trouble stitching on 40 count now, but it is what it is. I stitch on what I can when I can. But that is G Légère by Reflets de Soie. The other one that I seriously want up on my wall, this is one of my all-time favorite samplers, also by Reflets de Soie. Oh Marie. I believe it's a French sampler. Well, of course it's a French sampler. It has French words on it. Silly girl. Isn't this lovely? The colors, the motifs, the French words, just beautiful. I'm not Catholic. The family I grew up primarily with was Roman Catholic, and this iconography just, it speaks to me. Plus the colors. I really love this style of sampler with the lots of flowers and ornate, beautiful, realistic floral motifs and animals and that sort of thing. They're not easy for me to stitch. They're pictures, and I don't enjoy stitching that kind of thing, but I love the way they look. So again, Oh Marie, Reflets de Soie. That one is on 34 count, Devonshire Cream Legacy Linen. Again, a no longer produced fabric. Legacy does produce some 37 and 38 count fabrics now that you can easily get, or any kind of cream if you want that. There are at least 999,000 of these little pink roses sprinkled all through this sampler. And I'm plugging away at them. Okay. Reproduction samplers. Wow. I don't only stitch reproductions though. And when I first got seriously into counted thread stitching, there were not very many reproduction samplers available in shops, and we did have quite a few nice needlework shops in the Houston area. But my passion then was the drawn thread. And many of you who've been stitching for a long time will recognize this one. This one is by the drawn thread. It's called Sanctuary. It's not a reproduction sampler, it's a modern sampler. It came out in 2005. As you can see, it's almost finished. It has been at this point of almost finished since 2005. In my defense, it wasn't always me being lazy or undisciplined. This was before project bags were very popular, and I was keeping my chart and my stitched piece and my flosses. This is silk. It's being done as charted in mostly needlepoint silks with a couple of water lilies. And I kept them stacked on a shelf, but for several years I could find the chart and the fabric, but not the floss, or for a while the floss and the fabric, but not the chart, and then switch around. So it took many years for all three to come together. They're now in a project bag together. My only holdup now is I believe I started the verse around the edge in the wrong color taupe, but the colors are too close together for me to tell if I'm using the right color now. So until I figure that out, it sits. Come to my channel and nag me in the comments. Say, hey, have you finished Sanctuary yet? All right, I'm going to show you one more. And this one is not a sampler of any kind. This is Water Lily by Nora Corbett. And this one, I started stitching this with my father, who his mother is who taught me how to stitch, but he also stitched. He stitched a lot of stamped cross stitch. He stitched quilts and tablecloths. All my nieces got tablecloth and napkin sets. The kids all got cross stitch quilts from him. And after he retired, he had to go on dialysis. And I took a year off of work and learned to do his dialysis at home. And you're sitting for 3 to 5 hours at a time, 3 to 4 or 5 days a week. So I taught him counted thread embroidery. He took to it like the proverbial duck takes to water. He stitched, I showed him how to do it, immediately figured it out. He stitched a full set of Prairie Schooler Santas, the little yearly Santas, for my sister for her Christmas tree. He stitched me a dozen Prairie Schooler New World Santas. He enlarged the regular Prairie Schooler stockings into full-size stockings by doing them on 7-count Davos. And he stitched one of those for each of my nieces and nephews. He loved Prairie Schoolers, and he changed the colors to whatever he wanted. I have orange and purple Santa ornaments on my Christmas tree that he stitched. He passed away in 2016, and it became very difficult for me to pick this piece up for a long time. I resumed stitching it just recently, got the rest of the regular DMC stitching done on it, but I didn't like the, I don't enjoy using Krynic overdyed threads, and this one has the sparkly overdyed, not overdyed, metallic flosses in it. So and the one that they called for, it was basically a clearish white, pearl white, and it didn't show up on my fabric, which by the way is, oh my goodness, Opalescent Inspiration Lugana. I do not know the name of the company that dyed this. I've had it for quite a while, of course. So it took me a while to pick an alternate sparkly floss, and I chose this Petite Treasure Braid 203, which shows up just beautifully. You can see in her wings and the beginning of it in her skirt, down in that teal part. So the metallic floss is not fun to stitch with, particularly when you're spoiled and you like to stitch with silk. But I do a strand a day, most days. And then I should be finished with the metallic floss pretty soon and be able to go on to the beads. I'm a little afraid. I have a cat, and she is fascinated by anything I'm doing, and I'm pretty sure between my clumsiness and her nosiness, we're going to spill us some beads. So stay tuned for that one. Want that on my wall. I have a couple of other large Mirabilias kitted up. I don't know who I'm kidding, but hope springs eternal, doesn't it? Okay, this video is 29 minutes. I didn't hold things up long enough, did I? Okay, I want to go ahead and show you a few things that I use to stitch, maybe talk about a little bit about how I stitch. I've been stitching altogether, if you count my introduction to stamped work as a kid, I've been stitching for about 51 years. Yikes. I haven't been alive 51 years, so I don't know how that happened. But I've learned a lot from other people and from trial and error. And there's a few things I have learned from much better stitchers than myself. One of which is this little thing. This is something I could stitch without, but I choose not to. A wonderful designer and teacher by the name of Linda Driscoll. Taught some classes that occasionally came down to Fort Worth. Nothing ever comes to Houston. But she taught us in her hardanger class to always moisten our threads just a little bit and let them dry before we stitched with them. So this little thing, they're hard to find. Some LNSs do carry them. It's called a Floss Friend, but it's really a little stamp box from the Container Store with a little chunk of plain old household sponge that you keep just barely damp in the box. You can keep it in your sewing kit or by your chair and moisten your floss. Basically, you use it about the same way you would Thread Heaven or one of those other thread conditioners, but you lay your floss across there, pull it across. By the time you've got it threaded and you're ready to start your stitching, it's dry. It prevents tangles, it prevents little knots, it makes your thread, your stitches lie smooth and straight. When you're using silk, yes, I even use it on silk, it brings out the shine of the thread. And the other thing it does is it removes excess dye molecules from the thread so that if it gets moist or humid, the thread colors don't tend to bleed on your fabric like they would if you hadn't done that. So that's one of the things I love, a Floss Friend. I also like this thing. I believe it's called a Needle Park Avenue. I usually thread one needle at a time with a color and then change to another color because I use ridiculously long strands of thread like you shouldn't. But sometimes when I have a little bit left over, silk is not cheap and I don't like wasting it. So I will just stick my threaded needle in there if I know I'm going to come to another part of that same color later. Snap it closed, you can throw it in your kit. A screwdriver. The other thing that I love are my, where'd they go? Uncle Bill's tweezers. A lot of people buy them for hardanger, but they're excellent if you've got a slub in your linen. Pull it out. You just reach it, well, this is not linen, but you just grab the slub, gently pull it out. Makes stitching a lot easier, makes your finished project a lot neater. Do, however, if you have other people in your household, do not let them know you have these. Husbands are attracted to these like flies to honey. I've never lost a pair, but I've had many pairs become the property of other people in my household. Okay, oh, my last great thing, my Clicks readers. Is that what I look like? Okay. As I mentioned, I'm legally blind. I have not been able to get readers that are strong enough, or I've not been able to get glasses that are strong enough for me to see at a distance, but I can see up super close. And these help me focus. And I like them because I have not lost a pair of cheaters in all the time I've had these, because you just hang them back around your neck and you don't wander off and leave them. So those are a few things I like. Thank you for sticking with me this long. Thank you for listening to me ramble on. I'm hoping to make maybe 2 videos a month. Let me know what you would like to know. What kind of stitching do you like to see? Is there a needlework topic or a historical topic that you're interested in? You think you could sit through a 30-45 minute video of? Let's start a dialogue. If you enjoyed this, take a chance, subscribe. Oh, that brings me to what Flosstubers do I like to watch? I would have to say first and foremost the Taylor Swift of stitching, particularly of sampler stitching. Carol, the Saltbox Stitcher. We are not Swifties, we are Salties. Carol Stitches, amazing samplers. I could watch it with the sound off and just look at the beautiful things on the wall behind her. Her husband, Professor Mr. Saltbox, is a woodworker, and from what I understand, he's going to be starting his own channel, and I would love to watch that. I love to watch woodworking, so I can come up with things I'd like to tell my husband, who has no woodworking tools, I would like him to make for me. Others I enjoy, Brenda and the Cereal Starter. Brenda, disciplined, classic sampler stitcher, and her sidekick, Laura, the Cereal Starter. Are you a Brenda or are you a Laura? I am very definitely a Laura. I will start 65 new things knowing that I've got a deadline coming up on something. So that's Brenda and the Cereal Starter. Celeste of Celeste Creates. Now technically Celeste and I are neighbors. We live in the same city. However, we have a saying. Houston is 2 hours away from Houston, and it would literally take 3 to 4 hours for me to drive to her house or vice versa. But Celeste stitches a wide variety of things, reproduction samplers, newer samplers, smalls. She is a wonderful quilter and finishes, she does beautiful finishes. I enjoy her YouTube channel immensely. Niecy Lynn, another Texas gal. Howdy, Niecy. She stitches a wide variety of things. She's just the sweetest lady. You watch her videos and you feel like you've got a personal friend. Really presents well and does some beautiful stitching. I also enjoy Linen and Scraps. 2 more Texas gals. South of me, didn't know there was more Texas after this. Molly and Kathy Bourne, another duo. Kathy is a monogamous sampler stitcher with exquisite taste and amazing skills. Molly, again, a wide variety of smalls and samplers and modern pieces and older pieces, and she also does scrapbooking and awesome crafts. Wonderful sense of taste, those 2 ladies. Let's see, who else? Cynthia Brew, another Texas lady. Beautiful speaking voice, very calming, lovely, gracious lady. Talk about amazing finishes. That woman could take a styrofoam dish from the Chinese restaurant and finish it into a beautiful cross-stitch piece. I don't know how she does it. She finds things and makes beautiful bows and displays, and it's a wonderful channel to watch. Javagirl Stitches, another amazing finisher with beautiful, huge, gorgeous bows and flowers and fabric and gorgeous displays. Just really jealousy inducing. I would love to live near any of these people, or ideally let's create our own stitchers compound so we can share ideas. But for the time being, YouTube will be our compound, our neighborhood, and don't be hesitant to reach out to me to put a comment on my video. Let me know what you liked. Let me know what drove you nuts, because I'm sure there will be lots of things that I do that drive people nuts. Let me know what they are so I can stop doing it before it gets to be a habit. And until next time, keep your hands clean, keep your needles sharp, and I'll see you on the flip side. Bye-bye.